Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And as we always do, I'll ask, as we're in the presence of the Lord, to join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God has made all of us alike, yet different in so many ways. People in our place of work and in our school come from different backgrounds. Many of us have different customs and speak different languages. Each and every one of us has a different way of reacting to any given situation. We should show respect for all those who have entered our lives and accept them for who they really are, children of God. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you again for joining me on another beautiful summer evening. Even though summer hasn't officially begun yet. I would like to start by thanking all of you, thanking every student, every parent of every student, every family member of every student, all community members, and of course our staff for the extraordinary efforts that you've made to keep learning moving forward in teacher-directed at-home learning. I hope you can see this, but this is an award that's been given to all staff, and I certainly wish I can give an award to all of you, all students, all parents, all family members also. And I'll read what it says here. It says, in grateful recognition of the outstanding dedication and service to Catholic education during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. As I said, this has certainly been difficult to keep learning moving forward. And I know, for one, I'm privileged to work with the likes of you to do the best we can under difficult circumstances. You are all called upon to do the best you can, and you've certainly done that. It has been, I've heard so many wonderful stories and so many challenges too that we've met together during this time. So again, I thank you. Now, tonight, we're going to be finding out a little bit more about the successes, about the trials and the tribulations around teacher-directed at-home learning and what we've experienced. And so one of the questions that we'll be answering during our thought exchange, which will be fully explained, is when we consider at-home learning during school closures, what has worked well and what do we need to improve? And that's what we really want to know, because we always want to get better. I'll expand on this a little bit later, but we may be facing a similar situation or a hybrid situation which will involve some online learning in the fall, but we won't really know to the middle of August. So the survey questions we'll be asking, that being one of them, the other being, what are we going to need to have a successful return in the fall? There's also some demographic questions attached to those, and I wanted to explain why we're asking those demographic questions. I deliberately picked the prayer tonight to help illustrate this fact. Jesus always invited everyone into the center, and we have to acknowledge that as human beings in our society, we haven't done a very good job of that. There are many people that are pushed out to the margins who aren't let into the center, and everybody belongs there. We make up we assign arbitrary values to differences and say one is good and one is not good, and one should be excluded and one should not, and there's no good reason for this. But yet we do it and we persist. So we're asking some of these questions so we can understand as a school board how we are perpetuating pushing people to the margins, particularly our students. We've heard our students tell us this, and we want to better understand when we're asking these questions where people are coming from as they answer them, so we can better understand. So for example, we ask a question, for example, if someone identifies as being a man or a woman or transgender or two-spirited, and so perhaps for example, a group that identifies themselves as being women say constantly that they're excluded, then we can dig deeper and find out, okay, what are we doing to exclude women, for example? Or one of the other contextual questions, if there's a particular group that's consistently answering, then we can ask and we can understand, because we want to do better, and we know we can. And we're called as the Catholic system to be countercultural. So some of the inequities in the world we're called to point out, and certainly we don't want to be perpetuating them, which sometimes we do. So that beautiful image of Jesus inviting everyone to the center is where we want to be, and we need help to do that. And so we do accept the constructive criticism all the time, which this thought exchange will certainly include. There'll be many successes highlighted, but there'll also be some shortcomings highlighted, which will be we will be take very seriously and try to move forward with your help. The information that we get, again, will be used to help us improve. During COVID-19, but even beyond COVID-19, to help us serve in a better way, in the way that God intended us to serve. And so rest assured that nobody will be identified individually, and the information will be used with the utmost of confidentiality. But we will be sharing the broad ideas and broad themes with the community, and we will report back what we intend to do about it, or we'll reach out to you further if we're stumped on what to do, to have a broader discussion about how we move forward in a way that's pleasing to God. So with that, I would like to introduce our live event team tonight, and I'll ask them to sign on and give a little introduction. Self-introduction. So Cindy, Trina, and Kai are our live event team that will be helping us guide us through the thought exchange tonight, and I'll be back on to have an opportunity to comment and to try to give you a bit of information about what a return to learning this fall might look like. So Cindy, Trina, Kai, I turn it over to you for self-introductions. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Oh, go ahead, Cindy. Cindy, I believe you're on mute.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cindy Melanchenko, and I'm the Experiential Learning Lead, and I'll be helping out tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Trina Henley. I'm the Executive Assistant to the Director and Communication Services, and we are delighted to have you all with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, folks. My name is Kai Kafrissen, and I'm actually with Thoughtexchange, and I'm helping to support some of the virtual conversation that we're going to be having this evening. So lovely to have you in attendance.
Okay, thanks to the team. And now, Kai, we'll turn it over to you to lead and present question 1.
Fabulous. So as all good things with technology, we are learning as we are going. So I ask for a touch of grace with this, but I'm going to share my screen, and I just want to make sure if anyone can't see, just one of the other presenters can type in and let me know. Fabulous. So what I want to start off with is grounding ourselves a little bit in reflecting on some of the experiences that we've all had with at-home learning. In the session tonight, as Derek really beautifully said, we're going to understand what worked well and some areas that we need to improve on reflecting. We're going to actually have a chance to address the thoughts that have come up and that are prioritized by you as a group. And that's going to then launch us into a bit of a conversation about what's possible. So where we are, some plans about moving forward, and then we're going to finish up with actually a consultation with Thoughtexchange again with you of understanding what it is that you need to be able to move forward safely. So just a little bit context of Thoughtexchange. We're going to be using this as a tool, understanding that we've got about 50 folks in the conversation tonight. And with the virtual technology, we're not able to have you each say, 5 minutes of your perspective. So what we can do is we can use Thoughtexchange to give you each a voice and then to give you a chance to prioritize the thoughts of others to help guide the conversation in a more equitable way. So understanding what is on the hearts and minds of the crowd, not just the 1 or 2 folks that have the time to speak tonight. So with that, I'm going to invite everyone to join into this Thoughtexchange. And there's a few ways that we can do that. The first way, I believe one of my co-producers, perhaps Trina, is going to post a link into the chat. And if you see that link, you can click that and you can access it. Regardless, we have 2 other fabulous ways to get in. The first is that you can, if you have a phone, open your camera and just hold it up to the QR code that we can see on the screen here. You're going to see a pop down and you can go ahead and enter the Thoughtexchange in that way. The second way that you can do this is opening a browser. It could be on your phone, it could be on your tablet, it can be on the computer that you're looking at this through. And you're going to navigate to tejoin.com. It's listed here. And then enter that 9-digit code. So the 763-007-128. So what I'm going to ask folks to do is to take a few minutes and to enter this exchange, again, using the QR code, then navigating to tejoin.com or the link if you see it in the chat. And I'm going to ask you to share at least one thought in response to this question. Once you've shared your thought, you can go into the star stage. And this is where you get to consider the thoughts of other folks. So 1 star is you strongly disagree with that thought, all the way up to 5 stars of saying you're in strong agreement. So I invite folks to try and rate about 15 to 30 thoughts in the exchange, and you can always rate more if you want. So as an extrovert, I'm going to hold a little bit of space here for silent time where we can go ahead in and put our thoughts in, and then we're going to have a chance to take up the results of this conversation together. Fabulous. So I see most folks are able to join. That's great. Just a facilitation reminder, feel free to share at least one thought or more in response to this question. And once you've shared that thought, you can go into the star stage, where I encourage you to rate and consider about 15 to 30, if not more, thoughts of other people. Fabulous. So for those of us who are still sharing, I encourage you to finish up typing your thought. And at this point, you can start transitioning into the rating stage. Fabulous. You are doing a wonderful job. There's some great thoughts coming in. So we've got about a minute left. Just the final reminder to finish sharing up your thought. And I encourage everyone to try and rate 15 to 30 thoughts of others. So in this last minute, we can move into the rating stage. Fabulous. Okay. So I see that there are folks who are just finishing up doing a few more ratings. That's great. I'm going to keep it open for a couple more minutes as we start exploring these results. So you're welcome to keep rating, and we'll start taking up some of the pieces that we're hearing here. So I'm just going to switch over into our Discover tab. So what we're seeing here is the thoughts that have been prioritized as the group, by the group rather, as having the most agreement around them. So when we're looking at the results to the question, when we consider at-home learning during school closures, what's worked well and what do we need to improve on? The thought that seems to have most support right now is teamwork and support to families in need happened fast. Families really felt supported. So this seems like it's an appreciative stance that support happened in a timely manner when it was really needed, especially in terms of all the change that folks were going through at this point. So I just want to turn this over to Derek as well. Derek, do you want to speak to this top thought that has come up here?
Certainly. I'll just make sure I'm on the right screen here. And so I'll just... So the top thought, yeah, video lessons by the teacher, that's the one. It's easier to learn when the concept is explained.
Yeah, so actually I've just closed the exchange now. So this is the beauty of a live exchange. So that was just bumped up to the top thought here. So
okay.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Many of our teachers did post video lessons, and that was right in context, because although there's many video lessons provincially or worldwide, these speak to exactly what's going on in the classroom, and our teachers were very creative in developing these, and I know they were very helpful and very appreciated, as is this comment, so thank you so much.
We have another appreciation comment here. That was the previous first top thought, that just the timely manner in which families were supported.
Yeah, and thank you to students, parents, and families for expressing what is needed too, because you're the eyes and ears because you're the classroom, and that was so appreciated, and as well as the staff. Many times I didn't even know about the wonderful helps that were being given because staff were able to address them immediately.
I love that. Yeah, so we've really started off with some appreciation, and within this, there's this next thought is kind of the issue of consistency and equity, which I think will bridge into this idea of moving forward. But if you want to speak to this thought of consistent access to technology for all needs to be a priority.
Absolutely, and we've been talking to the province, to the Ministry of Education, and as many know, the province has set aside $150 million to try to help expand broadband further, and we do have representatives of our school board giving our particular context, so there will be helps given there, as well as internally. We did purchase and did support some families who did not have any internet access at home with some local solutions. Of course, we weren't able to participate in the Apple and Rogers offer. That was more, we don't have Rogers service for one thing, but we did find alternatives, and we're able to do those, and we're purchasing more of those setups to support our summer learning program and to help address any needs in the fall also. So that'll be ongoing work, and thanks again to families for communicating this to teachers and EAs and principals and vice principals in particular to let us know how we can help.
That's great. The next thought I think is really beautiful because we're talking about this piece of logistics in terms of the equity of access. And then this kind of shifts to more the emotional piece. So here we're saying it worked well when the school called to check in. Calling made that personal connection and really reified how important relationships are. This feeling of being isolated and needing to know that the schools care. So I'm wondering if you want to comment on that from a director level.
Yeah, that is so beautifully put, and I can't really say it much better than that. But I know that many calls were made, and that personal connection to just say, how are you doing? What do you need? And that's out of genuine caring. That wasn't a gimmick. That's people called because they really wanted to know that, students and parents, we miss you, and the staff, that's why they were reaching out, because you are missed. Nothing is as good as face-to-face, but these check-ins and calls and that personal connection is the next best thing, and our staff really worked hard to maintain these relationships.
That's beautiful. There's quite a few thoughts more, and we can take a few more and speak to them. I just want to do a quick time check and see if you want to present any information or if you'd like to take a few more here.
Oh, we'll take a couple more, and then I'll present some information about what the fall might look like based on what I know at the moment.
Fabulous. So this next one is really great. So we've heard this idea of appreciation, of equity of access, the appreciation of the emotion relationship that's held, and now this call that, yeah, that was lovely, and the idea of parents working full-time and not having enough time to teach their children, and this increased call for support for these families.
Absolutely, and thanks to parents and students for working with the teacher, in particular the EA or the principal or vice principal or whichever staff member was connecting to try to put heads together to find out how we could keep the learning moving forward, because this is a situation that so many were in and everybody was doing their best, and having that time and carving out alternative ways. I know there was some great creativity shown, but it still remains a challenge, and so this is a really good point and something we'll continue to try to improve upon.
I love that, and I think it'll be a beautiful piece to continue on in the next thought exchange when we start to vision for the future. So the next question here that, depending on timing, we can end on if you want, is this call for the focus on mental health and this expression that it's been excellent putting mental health as a priority and encouraging folks to take care of themselves.
And I can't commend our mental health team at Kenora Catholic enough, our partners throughout the community, the province, School Mental Health Ontario, and other groups that have been so amazing. And of course, our public health partners. Not only are they managing this crisis from a physical medicine standpoint, but they've also been so responsive and encouraging us to take care of ourselves and to take care of others. So it's been a real community focus. Our media partners have been amazing in helping us get these messages out too. This is health, well-being, spiritual development. These are the first things, and we've been trying to bring the learning ahead while looking after putting the first things first. And certainly mental health, the well-being, our spirits are first. And this thought beautifully expresses that.
Just a quick time check. Do you want to do a few more?
I think it's probably a good time for me to lay out a little bit about what I do know about what this fall might look like and what information will be coming forward. So without further ado, I'll launch into that. We've been told up to this point that there are 3 possible scenarios for a return to learning in September. And
Derek,
of course,
Derek,
yes.
it's Trina. Can I just get you to turn your video on?
Oh, I certainly will. Sorry, I was remiss.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. I'll get that adjusted.
Perfect. Good job. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll get rid of my green screen. There we go. Okay, thank you for that reminder. I'm blessed with excellent producers. And so, as I mentioned, working with public health, the ministry will make a final determination in early August, perhaps as late as mid-August, depending on what the variables are at that time, with respect to the start of school in September. These scenarios are to continue with the current distance learning framework. So I would think if the COVID situation is increasing, the number of cases, and God forbid the number of deaths is increasing, then we may be directed to continue with the current distance learning framework, but taking into account the excellent suggestions and observations you've made and try to improve upon those things and try to keep doing some of the best practices that you've also identified. The second possible scenario is what's termed as an adapted delivery model, and this is fewer students in a school on each day, so we can maintain physical distancing. So perhaps students would go, half of the students would go one day, half of the students would go the other day, and the students and teachers would be grouped together in what's called cohorting, or you might have heard it as bubbling or bubbles in other countries. As I mentioned, there may be alternate school day attendance and keeping the rotation of teachers to a minimum. And so obviously this relates to contact tracing if there is an outbreak, so public health can quickly identify who has been exposed to COVID-19 and can help those people. The third scenario is a return to the standard in-class format with expanded health and safety protocols in place. So deep cleaning, as we have been doing, hand washing, cough etiquette, other personal hygiene steps, and of course physical distancing, even in the regular return to standard in-class format. So the ministry will be releasing some guidelines to boards. We do have plans in place for all 3 scenarios now, but we're waiting. The ministry is continuing their consultations and their guidance from the COVID-19 command table, and which public health takes part in. to help give us some do's and don'ts, if you will, a framework, so we can refine our plans further and be ready for the announcement in August with the final determination with respect to the start of school in September. So that's what I do know right now, and I will keep sharing information as I receive it, and our media partners have also done an excellent job with that, and I'm sure will continue to do so. And so that brings us to
Hi, Derek.
Question
it's
two,
Trina
Kai.
here.
Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Trina.
I'm just wondering if Kai is still with us to launch into the second part of our thought exchange.
Fabulous. Yeah. So thanks
Wonderful.
for that.
Thanks, Kai.
One piece that I just want to set the stage for, so I've run a number of these thought exchanges in similar capacities of here are the scenarios, and then we'd love some thoughts and guidance moving forward. And for me, when participating in them, a great prompt is to think about what is known and what isn't known. So things like knowing that distancing and sanitization and personal protective gear, that those are very much at the forefront and details are still being figured out. But in this conversation, of course, you're welcome to share around that, but you can also think about things that maybe are outside the scope or that you would like to include in this conversation. So centering yourselves in what is known, what that framework is, and then the unknown things that we're still waiting on some more information about. So within that context, answering the question of, as you look to September, what are the most important things that you should consider to ensure that everyone feels safe and supported? And this is going to help the leadership team and Derek and his folks to actually understand your priorities and then use that as a guiding force as this one of these or many of these different scenarios come into play. So in the same way that we just accessed the first thought exchange, I would now invite everyone to join this thought exchange and using this as a time to vision for the future. So getting your input on looking to September, what are the most important things that we should consider to ensure that everyone feels safe and supported? So in the same way that we joined the first thought exchange, you can use the QR code by holding your phone up, having that drop down and clicking it. You can navigate into the tejoin.com and enter this 9-digit code. Or if you see a pop-up link in the chat, you can click that and that will take you right in. And I'm going to again hold some silent space here for folks to think and to input their thoughts. We're going to give about 4 or 5 minutes to answer this question. And again, just an invitation to, once you're in the exchange, share at least one thought and then rate about 15 to 30 thoughts of others. Fabulous. So I see that folks are able to join. And now I encourage you to share a thought in response to this question. And once you've shared a thought, You can then enter into the star stage and rate about 15 to 30, if not more, thoughts of others. We've got about 2 minutes left. I just encourage folks to finish up your thought and then enter into that star stage for the last minute and a half. Awesome. So for the final minute, there's great thoughts in here. Let's try and rate about 15 to 20 thoughts of other folks. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the exchange just for the time being so that we can start taking up some of these thoughts here. And just a note that there is going to be a follow-up with both of these links so that we can go back in and continue rating. At this point, like I said, I'm just going to close it so that we're able to take up the thoughts as they are right now. So thank you everyone for this participation. It's great thoughts and great numbers in here. And we'll do the same setup as last time. So the top thought that the group is saying is the most important is the continued transparent communication by the board's leaders. So I've seen a number of appreciative comments about communication and then this call for continued transparency.
Yes, and I'll just get my camera on. I'll just get that set. And we will certainly continue, and we appreciate the good, the bad, and the ugly with respect to comments, because we know we're certainly not perfect, and we really do look forward to these opportunities. And there are other ways too, on our social media, through direct email, telephone, where you can, and hopefully we'll have opportunities in person in the fall too. From time to time, at least, depending on the circumstance, where you can we can have that two-way communication. So when often things come out nowadays simultaneously, I hear them the same time through the media as you do, but if I do get any other information, I certainly work hard to use with our excellent team, pass that information along.
Beautiful. So the next piece I love, and I think whoever wrote this really heeded my call to think beyond the physical distancing pieces that are being heavily noted. And this question is really around student success for all. So within these times of massive change, really maintaining that focus that students continue to feel supported spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Absolutely. These are the most important things, and again, that was beautifully put, and I know folks responded to that positively, because that has to be number one. Often people will say there has to be Maslow's hierarchy of needs before Bloom's, the learning hierarchy. And so we will continue to make that a priority with our many partners, including students and parents.
And I think this next thought actually really speaks to that of so much of addressing and helping folks move up that Maslow's hierarchy is the safety that comes with communication. So this thought is really keeping up that excellent communication, including the live events, and just acknowledging the need and the importance for people staying informed and having multiple venues to ask questions and have them answered at this time.
Absolutely, and I'd be remiss in not thanking our staff for the contact at home, because some of the information was delivered directly to homes, and every home is a different context, so there are unique challenges and unique successes that happen, and it's really important to communicate them, because there were many best practices conveyed too that were discovered at one home or another. Because remember, in normal face-to-face learning, you have the teacher and you have the student, and there's one learning environment that the teacher and the students work together to make it optimal. In terms of teacher-directed at-home learning, there are as many different contexts as there are students, and that creates a really big challenge for students and families and staff. And so communication is always the key. In our case with these live events, we will certainly continue them as long as they're needed and wanted.
Beautiful. The next piece here is looking a little bit more practical at what this transition back is going to look like. So it's talking about how some students are going to find it difficult to actually come back, and thinking about the need for supports in place to help both them and their families within this time of transition.
And absolutely, we have our mental health team, our special education team, every staff member is laser focused on this idea, because it will be difficult. If we are back face to face in early September, that's the first time students have stepped foot in school in many cases, unless they were to pick up belongings very briefly, since March 13th. Since March break, and so that's it will be difficult. It'll also be difficult for staff, although they certainly want to get back, but to transition back. And I know staff, when they are permitted to be in the buildings, will be working very hard to prepare for just this, get the supports in place for all students to make the transition back to in-school learning as seamless as possible.
And then the next two thoughts, actually, I'm going to maybe speak or ask you to speak to in tandem, and I'll put them both up. So the first one is looking at this transition. The kind of two main elements that are coming up are mental health and then also the physical health.
Absolutely.
So in this one, oh, sorry, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs before Bloom's taxonomy of learning needs, if you will. And all of our staff are certainly focused on watching for when our students and our families and staff are watching out for each other too, to ensure that the needs are met, so we can look after everyone. First and foremost, we want to keep learning moving forward, but we want those basic needs looked after.
Awesome. Do you have time for a couple more?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So the next, I think, just reaffirms really what we've heard and that we're hearing resonated with leadership of this wanting children to feel safe and supported. The next piece, the next thought rather, is it's this call for this is what we could use. So clearer and more specific guidelines from the board outlining expectations for staff and also to families. And the why behind this is that so many teachers are working longer than ever, and the resounding message from families is often felt like comparison and not enough. So speaking to that kind of equity of expectations.
Yeah, this is a great comment, and I look forward to further any examples too, because of course we always try to provide the guidelines, for example, with synchronous learning, that being a very important tool in the toolkit, and the board was crystal clear about that, and our teachers did, for the most part, rise to the occasion very well with respect to synchronous learning and making direct phone calls and just keeping the learning moving forward. This at-home learning is difficult, and not only teachers but all staff were working longer than ever, and you see so much worldwide on Facebook and whatnot, and that's the blessing and curse of social media. People only put up the very best and the very optimal, and nobody was continually in that situation because there were many challenges. So there's a panacea that's provided and that people see on Facebook and other social media, and if we're not, you know, the old expression, and I date myself, is if we're not standing on our heads and spitting nickels every minute, then we're not doing enough. And so that is hard to hear sometimes when we are trying our very best to move things forward. So great comment, and I look forward to receiving more specifics from the folks who wrote this and favorited that, and perhaps that'll come out in the Q&A also. Thank you.
Fabulous. And feel free, knowing that you've got an eye on the time, to switch over to Q&A whenever you're ready. This one really, I think, reaffirms what we're hearing. And this last one, I think, is really interesting to touch on because it's a bit specific. So it's a suggestion or a question around, in an alternate day scenario, making sure that students have support at home on the days that they're not in school.
And thank you so much to the person who put in this thought, because I was remiss. In an alternate day scenario, the days at home would certainly be at home learning would be provided. It would be supported. The face-to-face would of course, there would be a lot of learning going on in face-to-face, but there would also be a time devoted to preparing the students for the next day or days at home of learning. And so there would be some direct contact during those days at home, but also some pre-work would be done to assist students to make the best use of their time at home from a learning standpoint. So thank you for that. I was remiss in not explaining that in a better way.
It's beautiful. Shall we do one more?
One more. Sounds good.
Beautiful. All right. So this piece, I think, probably reaffirms what's on your minds as district leaders and your minds as participants, is touching on that piece of clear expectations and monitoring of the physical distancing and hygiene, so to actually stop the spread of COVID.
Absolutely, and I cannot commend our national public health partners, our provincial public health partners, and our local public health partners enough. The Northwest Health Unit, I don't know how they do it. Every time I've called with questions, they've been very quick to get back to us, providing guidelines. For example, with graduations, they looked at so many plans and gave us advice on how to maintain safety. Any questions we had were answered very quickly, and we had regular team sessions or Zoom sessions with the Northwest Health Unit, and they were checking in with us to see if we had any further questions and providing us with up-to-date information. So that will continue. Our public health partners have been fabulous in helping us navigate these many unknowns.
Wonderful. So I just want to make a comment that acknowledging that there are some thoughts that we didn't have time to speak to today. I've been assured by Derek and Trina and the team that they're going to look at these results, they're going to use them more deeply. So just know that this is the tip of the iceberg, and that you're in excellent hands with going through the data and looking at all of these important questions and ideas.
Excellent. So this is our transition into the question and answer period. And so we'll take on all questions. In just a moment, Trina will provide instructions to you on the question and answer session, how that's going to work. I'll do my very best to give an answer if I have it right here live. But if we can't answer the question and you do identify yourself, we'll get back to you directly or encourage you to email the question to us so we can provide the most up-to-date information if I don't have it right now. So at this time, I'll ask Trina to give instructions to you wonderful participants on this question and answer period.
Derek, just before we begin doing that, we've had a whole bunch of texts and some questions coming in. People want to meet Kai from Thoughtexchange again. Just want to give a huge shout out to Kai. She did an amazing job tonight facilitating our Thoughtexchange. We had really fantastic thoughts and ideas shared. Just in the last Thoughtexchange that we hosted, we had 697 ratings and 61 thoughts were shared. So that's really tremendous. So you've really given us a lot to think about. Now, Kai, are you able to share your screen so we can give you a shout out?
Thanks, folks. I don't know if you can hear me or see me. This is a new.
I don't see you. I think you have to share your screen or.
Okay, let's try.
I hope we can.
Or she can turn her camera on, I think.
Yeah, try turning your camera on.
All right, you think working for a tech company, I might get this a bit better.
But honestly, as you're working through that, Kai, you've done such an amazing job facilitating tonight, and we're so happy to have the opportunity to work with you.
Well, folks, thank you so much, all of you, for the participation. I'm hoping you can see me, or perhaps you can see my screen. Maybe you can see my face. Just a huge shout out to everyone who's participated. Truly, you have some excellent district staff and leaders who are really eager to hear your feedback, and I know are going to take this to heart and are taking it to heart. So thank you so much. If there's any questions specifically for me that you need help with, Derek and Trina have my contact information, and I'm happy to connect with you. So just thanks again for the time. And yeah, I'm really very happy at the opportunity to be here. And I have to say, actually, so Director Haime was Principal Haime for me when I was just a little in elementary school. So this, yeah, holds a special place in my heart. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kai. God bless.
Thank you, Kai. Alrighty.
Okay, Trina, take it away.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is one of our favorite parts of the evening, and this is the live Q&A event. So for anyone who's been with us before, it's a great opportunity to ask Director Haime questions. So just to let you know the process, so the next part is designed to be engaging and provide for two-way communication. We encourage you to use your first name if you're comfortable when you're asking your questions, and that just makes it a little bit more personable. But we also understand that not everybody is comfortable in a live event, and so you can also choose to be anonymous at the same time. So to ask a question, you just click on the question mark box in the upper right corner of your screen, and that will open up the live event Q&A chat window. And in this window, we can see that we've already got 4 questions coming in already, so that's great, but certainly keep those questions coming. So you could just type your questions in, and Derek will respond to them one by one. So Derek wants to make sure that he's able to answer every single question and give every question attention. And so Cindy and I will be taking turns reading each question out loud for Derek, and then Derek will respond to your question. Something to note, so your questions are not going to automatically show up in the window because they're being held in a queue so that we can process them one at a time and give every question the opportunity that it needs to be addressed. Also, Cindy and I are going to be doing our very best behind the scenes to watch for duplicate questions and maybe even bundle some of those questions together as well, just to help facilitate the evening. And what we've learned from our past events is if you have a particularly long question or a question that has multiple parts, that we just invite you to maybe break them up into separate questions. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cindy, and she's going to start us off with our very first question.
Okay, our very first question is from an anonymous person, and the question is, my main question is, if school is open in September and this whole social distancing is still happening, will parents be forced to send their kids to school if they are immune compromised?
Thank you for that question. I know anybody who has a compromised immune system will be wanting the answer to that. It is not the intention of the ministry nor the Kenora Catholic District School Board to force anybody to school who is immunocompromised. We will, however, work with you to see if there is a way that if there is face-to-face learning that your child can fully participate, and if there's not, then we'll look at at-home alternatives, because remember, health and safety is certainly first. That idea that's come up a number of times tonight, Maslow's before Bloom's, and we will work together to find those solutions so everybody can keep safe and learning can keep moving forward. Thank you for that great question, but I can't see a scenario where anyone would be forced to come to school when they're immunocompromised.
Okay, Derek, this next question is from an anonymous person, but I happen to think that it could be one of our caring and dedicated educators. And so it's kind of a statement. In the primary schools, children have a harder time controlling sneezing and coughing. This is a concern for me as I need to be and want to be close to them as I help them with their homework. I can't think of a solution for this, but it worries me that I cannot do my job properly as a caring, nurturing individual who wants to give 100% to that student emotionally, mentally, and with a reasonable closeness that supports that.
And our staff certainly have expressed this in various ways, even during the current situation, because there is a frustration, because we know that this situation does not result in optimal learning. We're doing the best we can under the circumstances. And so likewise, even with the return to school where we have to have enhanced cleaning, enhanced hand washing, reminders about cough etiquette and other personal hygiene etiquette, and certainly physical distancing, that will make it a little bit harder to do the optimal teaching and learning that we normally do. But there will be some trade-offs, and as hard as it is to accept, because we have to maintain the health and safety, and we have to follow the directions of our public health partners to the best of our ability, knowing that it won't always work perfectly, but we'll try our best to maintain and to continue the techniques and follow the guidelines as they're prescribed. Thank you for that great question.
All right, the next question is from Trina, and she is asking, some universities have canceled team sports until at least December 2020. Will the secondary schools follow suit?
Well, again, we'll be following the direction of the Northwest Health Unit, in particular, our public health partners. We certainly hope for a full return for all activities, athletic, artistic, and all the realms of academic activity. But we won't know that until into August what that situation will be. So thank you for that, and stay tuned. As I get more information, I'll certainly be able to share it.
All right, so the next question, Derek, is coming to you from one of our anonymous participants tonight. So as an example of the disparity in the standards that have occurred, I have a nephew in Sioux Lookout who is in grade 9 and receiving 4.5 hours a week of live teaching for the last couple of months. I have a daughter in grade 9 at the high school who has received no live teaching. This is just an example of how we need to have more consistency in delivery of education.
Absolutely, and in that situation, I do hope you reached out to the teacher by telephone, by email, and if that didn't work, reaching out to the vice principal or principal, because this early on and even mid remainder between March and now, we have made corrections to that where we've been able to increase live learning, because sometimes it was a technical issue. Some teachers don't have reliable internet, and we wanted to help with that, so these live sessions could be part of the toolbox. And sometimes it was home or timing, and so there were various creative methods that were employed to ensure there's more consistency in delivery. So thank you for that, and I hope even with the short remainder of the year that you can be in contact to try to rectify that situation.
All right, the next question is from an anonymous person. If online learning has to be continued in the fall, will there be higher academic expectations for students? I feel if the expectations aren't increased, students will fall behind where they should be academically.
Certainly the great question, and you know, it's real, and I'm not going to stand up and deny that the online learning has not been optimal when compared to face-to-face learning. Like, I think everybody is doing their best, but we will do our utmost, especially with a return to face-to-face learning, to make up for some of the learning loss that will have inevitably affected at least some of our students. And so we will try to increase and fill in any gaps that have occurred so students can get to be where they should be academically. So thank you for that great question, and very well worded, by the way.
All right, so your next question is a little bit of a housekeeping logistical question, and it's from one of our anonymous participants tonight. When will we be able to return textbooks to TA?
And you will be receiving information about that as we get into the last week or 10 days of school. So you'll have, it'll be clearly communicated what the arrangements are for returning textbooks and other school equipment.
The next question is from an anonymous person. We've heard in the news that kids really don't transmit the disease. Will we be following the research and getting students back to school?
I know our public health partners certainly do follow the research, and in the province of Ontario, we have approximately 2 million students and 200,000 adults as employees. And so the considerations are for all involved in face-to-face learning. And so we'll be following the direction of our public health partners as to how we're going to be back to school in the fall. So great question, and we'll receive some guidelines at the end of this month and further direction in August about the particular model that is based on the research and the best advice from our public health partners.
All right, your next question is from an anonymous person. How will the board be supporting staff and students' distant learning needs and tech rollout given recent cuts to IT position across schools and the board?
Well, we'll continue to provide support. There'll be additional funding available for hardware. We've come leaps and bounds since March in our online learning out of necessity. And so we will continue to support that, and if there's particular challenges, we'll work together to meet those challenges and provide the most optimal distance learning we can.
The next question is from an anonymous person. If school doesn't go back full days, Monday to Friday, will parents get input how schools do go back? Example, Monday, Tuesday, for some Thursday, Friday, or others?
Well, we will get guidelines, and I know the province has been conducting, we're directed by the Ministry of Education according to those guidelines, and We will be receiving and seeking input, including through forums like these, so we'll take those anytime. So if you have particular ideas, do send them our way so they can be duly considered. As if there's like a halftime scenario, for example, I don't know what form it will take at this point, but the directors from all of the boards in Northwestern Ontario, Aurora Borealis, Keewatin and Patricia, of course, Kenora Catholic, Northwest Catholic, and Rainy River District in particular are meeting, and we are going to adopt a common approach, and it will certainly be informed by input from all stakeholders.
Okay, so the next question is thinking about the fall and return to school. How many students will be allowed to be in a classroom at one time given the physical distancing guidelines?
I don't know at this point. That'll be part of the guidelines that will be given by the province, which are informed, which are directed by public health. I've just given half the number as an example, but we don't have that information yet, but that'll be on the best advice, the best guidelines, the best direction from public health.
The next question is from an anonymous person. Is there a role for EAs to help augment teaching online to ensure more support is provided to students and families should learning still be done virtually?
Absolutely, and there were many EAs that were very involved in helping support students at home and families at home. And if there was a situation where an EA felt they weren't being utilized optimally, my hope is that they did reach out to the classroom teacher and the principal, vice principal to find a structure where EAs could put their considerable passion, their considerable skills to work to help keep learning moving forward. So thank you for that question, or for that comment.
Your next question is coming from an anonymous viewer. Will students from the same family be on the same schedule if only going to school 2 days a week so that parents will be able to return to work, only having to stay home for 2 days with their children?
Absolutely. So that will be a priority in the planning, depending on the model, that families are grouped with the same schedule should we be on a modified schedule.
The next comment actually is for Derek by an anonymous person. It's thank you, Derek, for speaking out on behalf of staff who also have accessibility issues with internet, children at home, and learning a new environment for student learning. This has been extremely challenging at times, and we have also faced mental health issues ourselves. So thank you so much for supporting us.
And thank you for doing your utmost and for doing your best. I know I'm very proud of everyone, students, parents, families, community members, and of course staff. And I do believe that at Kenora Catholic we have provided the, if not the best, among the best learning experiences in teacher-directed online learning. It is challenging, and I'm a doctor of education. I've done a lot of research, and I know teacher-directed at-home learning can never be as good as face-to-face. I've been a teacher. I've been privileged as a principal, superintendent, director to sit in and watch the magic happen in classrooms. It can't quite be replicated, but we are doing the best we can, and sometimes there's a pretty close approximation due to the creativity of students, families, community members, and staff, and that's certainly warmed my heart to observe that. But that's all been through communication, and it's been through overcoming many obstacles. So thank you for that comment, and we'll continue to support each other because it really does take all of us. Thank you.
Alrighty, so your next question comes from Catherine, and Catherine's just thinking about the logistics of planning for school for September, particularly in scenarios where school days may be staggered or happening on different days of the week. And Catherine asks, what about daycare for alternate days?
A great question, Catherine, and certainly the province is endeavoring to expand and there hopefully we'll get more announcements about that, should that be the model. So I think that'll be part and parcel of any announcement, what contingencies for daycare, for childcare are made. Thank you.
The next question has already been commented on, but it is probably not a bad idea to say it again. This is from an anonymous viewer. Is there any way to ensure greater consistency? My child has not had any live classes and would love to have some synchronous.
Absolutely, and that's through communication. So expressing to the teacher by phone, by email, say, hey, live classes, live synchronous sessions using Microsoft Teams or Desire to Learn Brightspace or Google Classroom would be amazing. It's a way my child can really flourish. And so that communication, because there's probably a variety of reasons why that didn't happen, and working together, we can certainly find a way to make that happen. So communication with the teacher and perhaps the vice principal and principal may need to be brought in to apply more resources because some of the problems are quite complex. And then by all means call Superintendent White or myself if we need even more support put to the situation to ensure that live synchronous learning is a tool in the toolkit.
Alrighty, so as a parent of high school children myself, I can completely empathize with this next question from one of our anonymous viewers. And the question is, this is just an observation. Having 3 kids in high school, self-management has been a reoccurring theme and lesson for our household in order for my kids to learn at home. I am wondering if it wouldn't be beneficial to add this to the curriculum in order for kids, likely in high school, to benefit on a whole from this new way of learning and mostly thriving.
And what a brilliant observation. As we've been saying, and part of it's going to come through this thought exchange, individual schools will be asking some questions through some Google Forms for you to have another opportunity to give input. But definitely self-management is a recurring theme because home is not meant to be school, you know, and although we've been forced into that, and so it would certainly be beneficial because we all want to be lifelong learners and be able to learn in every venue, including home. And so definitely there will be more discussion, more exploration of how to continue learning even when we're back to face-to-face when we go home. Or as I mentioned, if we're in a halftime situation, part of the instruction during when we're face-to-face will be how to optimize the learning time at home. And so that is an excellent observation. Thank you, and we'll continue to work together to on that.
This next question is adding to an earlier question that you had commented on from this anonymous person. If students are at the public board and this board, will they still coordinate so families have kids at schools on the same day?
Well, we'll do our utmost to communicate and coordinate that. It's a little trickier when it's multiple boards, but certainly we will make the calls and with you try to accommodate so you can have your students, your kids at school on the same days. So excellent point. I know there certainly is a number of families who have that situation for various reasons.
Alrighty, so it's always amazing when we have our trustees in the audience, and tonight we have our chair, Teresa Gallick, and she says to everybody, hi everybody, I just want to say thank you for your participation. Please know that as a board of trustees, our #1 priority is to keep your children safe and be able to learn in a healthy environment. Please stay safe and enjoy your summer. Here's to hoping September will be somewhat normal. Thanks to Derek for keeping us all informed with the information as it becomes available. So thank you so much, Teresa.
The next question is from an anonymous person. Has the board begun to reallocate funding towards additional custodian time and resources for the fall?
Certainly resources. We're working with the ministry to ensure that we have all of the resources necessary. It's been we've been informed that there won't be additional staffing added at this time. So if I get anything to the contrary, I will let you know. But at this time, we have not been informed of any additional funding being allocated to additional staff time.
Alrighty, so that was the last question in the queue, but certainly if anybody else has questions, Derek will stay on for a few more minutes and answer them. So now's the time to type your questions if you have more. Is somebody tapping?
Yeah, I'm getting a pretty good, that's a pretty good beat.
It's not hail, right? It's just tapping.
Very good. Well, there may be a question that comes up while I'm talking, and I'll certainly return to it, but I'd like to thank you all, particularly during this beautiful weather, for taking the time to be here with us tonight. We all welcome the affirmations, we welcome the compliments, and we welcome the tough questions too, and the constructive criticism that you offer. And I particularly appreciate our students, our parents, our community members, and our staff, because often when a constructive criticism comes across, they come with a proposed solution too, and we really appreciate that. I encourage you to keep emailing. Do call if there's anything that you would like to discuss or any questions you have, and I will always do my best. Often I reach out to our excellent staff to help me with providing the answers and resources. Again, thanks everybody again for doing your best, and don't hesitate, don't hold on to thoughts. If you have wonderings, if you have criticisms, don't hold on to them. If there are issues and roadblocks, then do communicate them. And I know many of you did to teachers and EAs and principals and vice principals who are maintaining regular contact with your households. And if you're feeling alone and not reached out to, don't ever hesitate to call me, and I'll work on figuring out why that wasn't happening, because often there's some pretty big technical issues that our staff have, or there's other reasons that we can certainly find ways around, but we need to know about them. So thank you for communicating those. Thank you for your time tonight. And I think if we move through this together with trust in the Lord, then everything will be okay if we trust in grace and trust in God's love and continue loving and looking after each other. So God bless you all. Thank you so much for this time tonight. Keep entering things in the Thought Exchange. Trina, how long are we going to be? Is the Thought Exchange going to be open?
Yeah, you bet, Derek. What we discussed is we're going to keep it open for exactly 1 week. So it's going to be open starting tomorrow. We'll reopen it again, and we'll keep it open until June 24th, just to collect some additional thoughts that might come up. Sometimes when you participate in a Thought Exchange event, you think about it later in the evening, and then you can come up with some more ideas. And so we certainly welcome additional thoughts and ideas being brought forward.
And Trina, how will we communicate for folks who weren't here tonight? I know there's a live video recording, but are there other ways we'll communicate how people who weren't here tonight can participate in the Thought Exchange?
You bet, Derek. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we are going to send information out to all of our families system-wide, and so certainly watch your email for that. We may also post it on Facebook. We haven't decided yet, but we will absolutely email it out to all of our staff, to all of our students, and to all of our families.
And thank you, Alana, for that kind comment. But I'm here definitely representing a team, and I have many amazing people standing in front of me, beside me, and behind me at all times. So I'm just the figurehead, but it is certainly my pleasure, and thank you for the kind words. So with that, I'll bid you all good evening, God bless, and again, together we will certainly continue to work through this in the best way possible and keep doing things that are pleasing to God. Take care, everybody. Bye now.